so being Wednesday, oh, wait, sorry. All right, so being 6:30 on Wednesday, March 20th, 2024, and having quorum, I'll call the Bridgewater Planning Board to order. Item 1. Is Ms. Rojas with us yet, Mr. O'Brien?
I don't believe so yet.
Okay. So the meeting is being held remotely in accordance with the provisions of the open meeting law pursuant to the governor's approval of a supplemental budget bill. Temporary provisions pertaining to the open meeting law have been extended to March 31st, 2025. Specifically, this further extension allows public bodies to continue holding meetings remotely without a quorum of the public body physically present at a meeting location and to provide adequate and alternative access to remote meetings. The language of the extension does not make any substantive changes to the open meeting law other than extending the expiration date of the temporary provisions regarding remote meetings from March 31st, 2023 to March 31st, 2025. Members of the public are encouraged to participate remotely and shall address the questions through the host and the chair of the board. The following members of the Bridgewater Planning Board are participating remotely this evening. I am Patrick Driscoll, the chair, Mr. Stephen Geller, and Mr. Edward Ted Haley is with us this evening as well.
Astrid is here as well.
And then I apologize, Ms. Astrid Rojas has joined us as well. We do not have any alternate members this evening. The following Bridgewater Town staff will also be participating remotely. Mr. Robert Rulli, our Community and Economic Development Director, Mr. Shane O'Brien, the Town Planner, Ms. Stristy Jane, the Assistant Town Planner, Mr. Greg Tanzi, the Town Engineer, and Mr. Stephen Solari, the Building Commissioner. At this time, everyone's mics are muted. The board's mics will be unmuted through the whole meeting, and as items appear on the agenda, the project's representatives' mics will be unmuted. If the project is a public hearing and allows for public comment, we ask that you use the chat feature to ask your question by listing your name, your address, and your question. The host of the chair will recognize all questions in order. You can also use the raise my hand feature in the participant menu, and you'll be unmuted when the host of the chair recognizes you. Again, please state your name and your address before asking a question. If you're on the phone, you can dial *9 to raise your hand. Okay, so could everybody that's not on the board right now, please mute thank you. Okay, so going back to the agenda, item 2, public hearings. And just so everybody's familiar with how the public hearing process is going to work this evening, we'll start off by asking the applicant to make their presentation. Board and staff will then ask questions. And then we'll open up each public hearing for public comment. And everybody will have the opportunity to speak about the project if they so choose to. And that's how the public hearing process will work. So item 2, public hearings. The first public hearing we have this evening is 1185 Pleasant Street, map 72, lot 1. This is a site plan review for the town of Bridgewater. This is a proposed new fire department headquarters with the request for waivers, fees, etc. This is continued from March 6th, 2024. And if the applicant's representatives are here, you can make your presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Brian Humes, representing the applicant, Town of Bridgewater. We are the applicant, Jakunski Humes Architects, and it's good to be with you again tonight. I also have some other town staff that are related to the project that I'd like to just introduce to the planning board. Matt Rushton is on the call here, and he has been overseeing the project throughout the initial stages of the project. He's on the steering committee for the Bridgewater Fire Headquarters. And we also have Fire Chief Schlatz, who's also town staff and part of this call. Also Eric Diaz from Strong Point Engineering Solutions. And since we've met last, we have addressed the comments that were brought up by the planning board. We thank you for those comments. I think they were productive, and we have, I think, made a better mousetrap out of what you brought up. Eric has been working on making those revisions, getting the revised drawings back to the town planner, getting them back to town staff, and has always also spent the time going to the fire department and reviewing the improvements to make sure that they met the requirements of the fire department. Obviously, the fire department being the main occupant, they have to also be assured that the vehicles can get on and off the site, turning radiuses are appropriate, aisle widths are appropriate. So Eric is going to walk through the changes that have been made since the last presentation. And if you have any questions, I'm available following that. So, Eric.
Great. Excuse me. Thank you, Brian. For the record, Eric Dias, registered professional engineer with Strong Point Engineering. As Brian said, we've kind of embarked on some layout changes to this based on what we talked about. So I'm going to share my screen and just walk the board through what those changes are. And this should be coming up momentarily. And I believe everybody can see that now. So this is, nothing substantial to the overall layout, nothing that moved our entrance or expanded our limits of pavement or anything like that. But we've got 4 primary changes that we made. Possibly the biggest topic was the fire apparatus exit lane that we have shown over here. In a prior iteration, this was 12 feet wide. What we were able to do was center the limits of the pavement within the proposed footprint of the culvert. So the culvert has not gotten any wider. We've just rearranged some things. We've still got a 12-foot ingress and egress aisle for non-emergency vehicles. And then we're able to widen this to 16 feet. For emergency vehicles, which 16 feet is obviously wider than a lane that you would get on Route 104, for example. So that definitely widened up. In this location up here, this dimension that you see is 28.6 was previously 16 feet. What we were able to do is we actually lost 2 parking spaces in here and rounded this off a bit more to open this up so that there was just less maneuvering to be done. If a piece of equipment was to come out of, let's say, the first bay and run this way, it just kind of takes the curse off of that curve, so it opens that up. Thirdly, there is this area here. Previously, you'll recall the limits of pavement kind of jumped in here and created a choke point at 16 feet, and we had proposed some parallel parking on the sides. We got rid of that. We opened this up to 24, and actually what we were able to do was pull the wall in the limit of pavement away from the wetland by about 2 feet. One, that helps satisfy the Conservation Commission and makes that advantageous, and 2, it does help us offset some of the additional impervious surfaces that we created with regard to stormwater and things like that. And then this area back here is the 4th change that we made, 4th and final. We moved the outbuilding back by either 2 or 4 feet. I don't exactly remember. But the big change is widening this drive aisle to 40 feet. You may recall that in the last discussion we had, the question, it was kind of tight through here. And the question was raised, well, what if somebody doesn't pull all the way in and now they're in the way? So this is an 18-foot deep parking stall. And then we've still got a few feet of overhang here in the event somebody did. Not that they would, but I think we're safe in that case. And the result of this whole thing is this truck turn sketch. We expanded on the view that we had before. If we start this way, let me zoom in a little bit because it's probably hard to see on your screen. But this is coming from we'll call this the easterly direction with the aerial rig, which is the biggest truck, and maneuvering its way through the site. You can see that things are much more open back here, and the rig can come all the way around and easily maneuver its way back out. This shows the same pathway in, but the aerial rig could take the turn and come into the first bay. That is not the intention, which is my understanding in talking with Chief Slats. But in the event that ever changes, the ability is there. Same thing here. This is the exit. Again, with the aerial rig from the first bay, this would be the most onerous cornering at this point, at the choke point here. And again, we make that no problem. And then the first views just show a right turn out of the site. And we added a 4th to show that we could take the left turn and go eastward on Pleasant. So those are the big changes. The one last thing that I'll note on this, I did say that we removed a couple of parking spaces. You'll recall in your bylaw, there is no parking requirement given for this particular use. So the use has been driven by the needs of the fire department. And in speaking with Chief Schatz, he was okay with losing those few parking spaces. So we think that this addresses all the comments with regard to the layout and the concerns of maneuvering through the site. But certainly I'm glad to answer any questions that you folks may have.
Are there any board questions for Mr. Dias at this point? No. So, Mr. Dias, thanks for updating those. I think it's a lot better. I think it was just too tight before. Just
Sure.
one quick question.
Mhm.
If the fire truck is coming out
Mhm.
onto 104 and wants to take a left instead of a right,
Yep.
you don't think that island should be pulled back a little bit so it's not clipping that island?
Well, we do show that the truck can make it, but if everyone's more comfortable pulling it back a little bit, I think we have room to do that too.
Well, that's something that's but and then how about getting the truck in, coming down Pleasant Street, taking a left? Is that island, if that island's pulled back a little bit, is that gonna make it safer for the truck and everything accessing that? So they don't have to take that hard 90 to get into that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it can't hurt. So if we pull it back 5, even 10 feet, I don't think that really changes the intention of the island, right? The intention is only to keep emergency vehicles and other vehicles separate. I think it'll still do the same thing if we pull it back a little bit. I would still leave the stop bar in the same location, however, and pull that back and then just maybe stripe it from where we pull it back to up to the stop bar.
What do you mean by the stop bar? Is that something that would hit a truck?
No, just a painted line on the
Oh,
road,
all right.
exiting way to stop.
That's the only comment I have. Thank you for updating the plans.
Sure.
Any board comments? If not, how about staff comments?
I would actually agree with that, Mr. Chair. I would like to see it pulled back personally.
That's just for safety, I think.
Yeah,
I think you take it that you're trying to get those big trucks to take a hard 90 and then you're gonna hit that island all the time.
Sure. Let's pull it back 10 feet. I think that'll alleviate the issue, no problem.
How about staff comments? If board of staff comments?
I have
Mr.
nothing.
Mr. O'Brien or Mr. Tanzi?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Jan?
Similarly, yeah, based on the last meeting, we talked about the proposed conditions of the off-site traffic lights. I think that we would maintain that condition as part of this approval.
Any more staff comments or board
If I may
comments?
just have just a clarification. So condition on lights that was just mentioned by Mr. O'Brien, and then within that condition or an additional condition would be pulling that island back 10 feet. Is that what I'm hearing?
That is correct, if that motion is made.
Well, let's before we talk about a motion, let's see if there's anybody from the public here that would like to speak. And then we can come back and talk about conditions. So is there anybody here that would like to make a public comment or speak on the project?
I do want to note that we did receive a public comment that I did forward over to the board members.
Correct.
So I just want to make sure that that's part of the record.
We did get that. Thank you, Mr. O'Brien.
No problem. All right, we have a Mark laptop.
Sorry, this is Mark Peterson, 43 Church Street. My question is for the driveway, if it's, so there's enough space there to construct it now, but if it ever had to be reconstructed in the future with, something damaged it, the integrity of the soil underneath required a rebuild. Is there enough space to do a rebuild if need be in the future? That's my question.
Mr. Dias, Mr. Dias, could you take that?
Yes, sir. Through the chair, a bit of a loaded question. The short answer is it depends on the nature of whatever the issue may be, right? If it's a localized issue that we could maybe shut down one lane and work on one side at a time, then that's certainly what we would do. If an earthquake hit and it fell into the ground, we'd have to rebuild the whole thing. That said, though, these things are structurally designed. They are stamped by a structural engineer. They are required to be subject to a building permit and construction control. They have a great deal of oversight by design professionals and regulators when they are installed. These are designed to outlast the lifetime of the fire department, basically. So yeah, that's kind of the long and short version.
I have another question too. Is there enough space in there? So if there was some sort of an infestation of vegetation going towards the vernal pool, is there enough space for a maintenance crew to remove it without having to resort to herbicides, which could damage the wetland, could damage the vernal pool? Is there enough space? And is that accounted for in the operations and maintenance?
So if I may, through the chair, as far as space is concerned, if we zoom in here, you'll see that there's a little over 65 feet between the limit of the retaining wall and the vernal pool. And the grades through that area are reasonably flat. So if there was some sort of infestation through here and we needed to get hands on it, so to speak, you could come in through Pleasant Street and you could come in through the parking lot with minimal disturbance and kind of hand pluck those things out of there. There is an operations and maintenance plan that goes along with this. It's attached to the stormwater report, and it does have prohibitions for the use of herbicides in the wetland buffer areas and the wetland areas. So I believe that issue is taken care of.
Very cool. Thanks.
Mr. Peterson, you all set?
All set, thank you.
Is there anybody else from the public that wishes to speak on the project?
Mr. Chair, I do have my hand up. I'm not sure if anyone sees it.
Oh, hello.
Mr. Rushton, go ahead.
Sure. Matthew Rushton, 9 Colonial Drive, Bridgewater, and Chair of the Fire Building Committee. Just coming before you tonight, just to reiterate the strong support from the Building Committee that was originally established and has been working on this project through 2019. Began with a study to look at population growth and calls for service. And this site, which happened to be town-owned property, significantly reducing the initial cost to build a new fire station headquarters for the town of Bridgewater, is extremely important to the town and to the fire service in protecting at least that side of town and giving them a modern fire station that has a life expectancy of, we hope at this point, 50 years or more. Some of the comments that I've heard, I just want to let you know, Mr. Chair, that as the chair of the Fire Building Committee, I'm committed to, if we get approval tonight to move forward, I will immediately establish a subcommittee within the Building Committee to look at, sort of the biggest concern that I hear is the traffic. And so we will work on a plan. Our plan is to work with some of our state legislative leaders and potentially get an earmark in the fiscal budget that would pay for some significant roadway improvements from Elm Street to Cumberland Farms. So that is our plan, and we expect to move on that right away. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rushton. Any other members of the public for public comment?
I do not see any hands raised nor anyone in the chat.
Just a quick question for you, Mr. Dias, and then I'll stop asking questions. So the center island there, and we talked about that before, maybe narrowing it or pulling the post lights out of it. So the way the street lights are in that island now, if that island, for operational purposes had to be removed or narrowed because they found that it was just too tight or it wasn't working well, would it be easier now to put those post lights on top of the wall or on the sides, stagger them on the outside perimeter of the road, so that if that did need to be removed and narrowed, we didn't have to worry about electrical underground and all that stuff, or are you confident that it's going to work and that's the best place for them?
I'm confident that it's going to work. I couldn't see a reason why that we would ever have to remove that, shy of some major issue like Mr. Peterson maybe alluded to, that there was a need for a structural repair of some sort and et cetera, et cetera. I don't believe we need to move the lights at this time, but certainly, I also don't think it's absolutely critical that they're in the island. I think they lay out better that way, as far as the photometrics are concerned. But if the board feels very strongly that they should be moved to the sides, then we can do that too.
Well, I guess my other concern was height, like, so how much higher are they than, so the actual light will be high enough so that it wouldn't clip. It would be higher than a fire truck, correct?
That is correct. Actually, one of the waivers that we're requesting is for the pole lights to be
Is
a
that
height
20,
of
is that
25 feet.
25 feet? All right,
25.
all right. You answered my question. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, if there's no more public comment, is there any more board comment? Or staff comments? Okay, if we feel comfortable with what we've seen and heard, do we have a motion on the public hearing?
I'll make a
Have you-
motion, to close the public hearing. So are you looking for a Pat?
Yep, so Mr. Geller, motion to close the public hearing. Do we have a second?
I can second.
By Ms. Rojas, any discussion? So I'll take the roll call to close the public hearing. Mr. Haley,
Yes.
Ms. Rojas,
Yes.
Mr. Geller,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay, so we have, now we're in the deliberation phase, and just let's discuss the project and take a look at, hopefully everybody took a look at the draft decision that Mr. O'Brien sent us for approval. There are a number of general conditions. And under general condition 21, what we had discussed in the past was the applicant shall provide proper electric emergency vehicle traffic warning control signs and lights on Pleasant Street to provide safe travel for both on and off site of the fire station. So that's one that we should consider. Mr. Geller, you had also mentioned the island. Are you comfortable with the 10 feet? Do you want to make that motion for that additional?
Yeah, I'd like to add that as an addition, and I agree, you can paint the rest of it. But I think pull it
so you-
back.
So and it can be 10 feet, and if they get out in the field and they have to make a modification, we can do a minor modification as well, so. But, prior to endorsing the plans, we'll have them pull that back 10 feet. You're comfortable with that?
Absolutely.
Any comments on that from the rest of the board? Any comments on the condition 21 that Mr. O'Brien is proposing in regards to the lights and the signaling of 104?
No, I think it's fine. I think it's necessary, so.
One of the additional conditions that Mr. O'Brien proposed to us is the applicant is responsible for the construction and maintenance of the proposed passive recreation area and the Tool Family Trail as shown as the site plan. So that'll have to be done as part of this site plan. Is everybody comfortable with that? If there's no other conditions, we do have a draft condition letter from Mr. O'Brien. We talked about those new additions. Does anybody want to discuss it further or make a motion?
Mr. Chair, just a question. Do we have to vote on the waivers? Will that all be in the decision letter that's here?
Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
We would
One,
we would
two,
have to accept the applicable
five,
waivers because
six.
one of the waiver requests was a waiver of the fees as
Right.
well. So I think accepting of all applicable waivers that this planning board could waive would be an appropriate motion.
Right.
Whether it be a separate motion or
Alright, so-
on the motion.
So this, just to Mr. Geller's point, there are 7 waiver requests. The first one is related to the height of the poles from 20 feet to 25 feet. The next waiver is the 24 maximum curb cut width. They're proposing 120 feet. A waiver is sought from the transportation plan approval. A waiver is sought from the fiscal analysis. A waiver is sought from strict compliance with large parking area landscape requirements. A waiver is sought regarding the maximum height of a retaining wall at 6 feet. And a waiver is sought for the requirement of the retaining wall not to be vertical cast in place and using or concrete blocks. So the one waiver that I don't see on here that we talked about last time that they mentioned was height, but that's a ZBA thing. So just to remind the applicant, that's ZBA, that's not us. So those are the 7 waivers, Mr. Geller. I don't know.
Yep.
So before we vote on the project and the decision letter, do you want to make a motion to accept and approve those 7 waivers?
So moved. I'll make the motion to accept all 7 waivers as presented in the decision letter.
Do we have a second?
Second,
And Mr. Haley? Any discussion on the waivers? Okay, I'll take the roll. Ms. Rojas,
Yes.
Mr. Geller,
Yes.
Mr. Haley,
yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay, so then we have, is there any more discussion on the project or general conditions? Do we have a motion on the project?
So do we make a motion on the filing fees, or is that not us?
Say that again, Mr. Geller?
Do we have to make a motion on the filing fee, or is that?
That
not
was
us?
one,
That was part of the
Well-
waiver request.
yeah, that's, well, I think
Um,
that actually wasn't
um,
listed, that wasn't listed in the waivers, but.
Right, that you only talked about the 7 that was listed, the last one says.
Right,
also
it should-
record this. So,
All right, let's do that as well.
We'll just do that. So do we have a motion to waive the filing fees for the town, to the town?
so moved.
Do we have a second?
Second,
By Mr. Haley? I'll take the roll. Mr. Haley,
yes.
Ms. Rojas,
Yes.
Mr. Geller,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay. So do we have a motion on the project and the addition of the general conditions? So we have the 22 proposed by Mr. O'Brien that already includes the traffic warning controls at the street, and we want to add pulling that center island back 10 feet, correct?
Correct.
So do we have a motion on the project?
I'll make a motion to accept the project for the fire station as presented, along with the 22 conditions of approval, with the addition of the 23rd of pulling back the island 10 feet.
I
Okay,
can
so-
second that.
All right, so just for clarification, Mr. Geller, we're gonna, you're making a motion to approve the project with the conditions proposed by Mr. O'Brien, and we're adding a 23rd, which would be the removal of the first 10 feet of the island off 104, correct?
Correct.
All right, just for clarification. So we have a motion by Mr. Geller and a second by Ms. Rojas, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
So Mr. Haley,
Yes.
Ms. Rojas,
Yes.
Mr. Geller,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank
Great,
you all.
thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I thank you.
Okay, Mr. O'Brien, we have under item 2 again, we have a continued public hearing. We have 456 Bedford Street,
Mhm.
map 62, lots 34 and lots 8. I believe you received a continuation request from the applicant on this.
Yeah, the applicant's still working on cleaning up the site, which they stated would take some time. So they did request a continuance, which I would suggest that continuance go to the April 17th meeting.
Okay, did they provide a written request for this?
I received an email request.
So do we have any discussion on this? If we don't have a discussion, do we have a motion?
I can set a motion to move this to the April 17th meeting.
Okay, by Ms. Rojas. Do we have a second?
Second,
By Mr. Haley? Any discussion? I'll take the roll. Mr. Geller,
Yes.
Ms. Rojas,
Yes.
Mr. Haley,
yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay, thank you. So item 3. New public hearings. The first new public hearing we have this evening is 0 Plymouth Street, also known as map 24, lot 52. Site plan review, section 10.6 for a new office warehouse building with parking, drainage, and utilities. Do we have that? We have a public hearing notice, which I'll read. This is 0 Plymouth Street, legal notice, Bridgewater Planning Board, public hearing notice on Wednesday, March 20th, 2024 at 6:30 PM. The Bridgewater Planning Board will be conducting a public hearing via Zoom on an application by Troy Built LLC for a site plan approval, section 10.6 of the Bridgewater zoning ordinance to construct a new office warehouse with site improvements on 1.3 acres located at 0 Plymouth Street, Bridgewater, Mass. Assesses map 24, lot 52. The plans were prepared by Michael J. Koskinen Associates and are on file with the Office of the Town Clerk and the CED office and website. All interested persons are encouraged to attend. This is posted by the Bridgewater Planning Board and ran on 3/6 and 3/13 of 2024. Mr. O'Brien, we have the green cards and all the fees have been paid.
That is correct.
Okay. And again, so this is a public hearing. We'll ask the applicant to make their presentation and then board dialogue, and then we'll open it up to the public. So is anybody here to represent the project at 0 Plymouth Street?
Yes,
Mr. Dyer?
yes. This is my first.
You're on the air.
I know that. Recording, how do I come on?
Just while Mr. Dyer is getting ready, we do not have any review from the town engineer, so I think this will be a pretty preliminary review of the project, and then we'll probably have to continue it because we do have nothing from the town on this. Do we have any town comments on this? I have your letter right in front of me here.
Yeah, I would like the applicant to kind of
Yeah.
present their project first.
I know. I don't know how to get the sound back on. That's
You're muted there.
no, it says unmute.
We can hear you.
You can hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I can't get the screen to come for some reason. You are sharing.
You are sharing the screen. You just have to click on the PDF and then it'll bring up.
Behind the screen.
All right, we can kind of see it.
We got it now.
Which one you want?
We'll start with page 1, sheet 1.
Sheet 1.
Okay, ready? Okay. Members of the planning board, my name is Michael Koska. I'm a registered civil engineer and land surveyor in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Here representing Troy Built in their endeavor to build a contractor's yard on the corner of Plymouth and Mill Street in the town of Bridgewater. Going through the plans, sheet number 1 of 6 shows the existing topography. At the northwest corner of the site, you have elevations of about 35 to 34.5 to 33. down to a lower elevation in the southeast corner of 28. There is a overhead wire where there's an easement from the Easton Edison Company. And at this point, the site has been used for storage of materials, and those will be removed, not shown on these plans because they change from week to week, and the site will be leveled accordingly for the construction of the building. So that is sheet one of the plans. One of the changes that was made for the board's clarification, the wetland line was obsolete. And DEP in the comment letter to issue the file number requested that the wetland line be re-identified and brought before the commission where it had expired. And there were wetlands that were found across Mill Street on the north side, along the dike of Blood Pond, in a small area in the southeast corner of the site where eventually the drainage of the proposed contractor's yard would be exiting. Sheet 2, please. Moving on to sheet number 2. Okay. Sheet number 2 shows the proposed building. It is 4 bays.
Mr. Costa, could you move I can only see there you go. And I don't know if can you go to the left a little bit now? So you can get the front of the site in?
You're asking a lot.
Yep.
I know.
The technician here is a little bit rusty.
Technicians new at this.
The proposed building is 40 by 96, 4 bays. The calculation showed that we needed 8 parking places with the office and warehouse area. We provide 10. There is a handicap spot closest to the entrance and the end of the proposed 5-foot concrete sidewalk. The detail of the handicap ramp and so forth is shown on, I believe, sheet 6 of 6, but we'll worry about that later. The proposed sign would be, I'd say, on the southerly side of the site near Plymouth Street. We have some landscaping along let's call it the intersection of Plymouth and Mill. The dumpster would be screened and is located to the north side of the site. It's shown where there is the designation of 18-foot wide passageway to the back. We're planning wall packs on the 4 corners of the building, and those are meant to not shine any glare onto either Mill or Plymouth Street. And there is a note, I believe, note number 5 that addresses that. The rear of the building will be for, the contractors. The front will be for visitors and any office staff. We are out of the 100-foot riparian zone. We're maximizing between the 100 and 200 foot. We went through conservation, and conservation issued a order of conditions that has been received by DEP, reviewed, and recorded at the Registry of Deeds. Sheet 3, if you would, Drew, please. Okay. No, 2, that's 3. Yeah, sheet 3 shows in a very No, you're back to sheet 2.
What?
Sorry about that, gentlemen. Sheet 3 shows the infiltration system in a generic fashion with the roof drains out towards the west side of the site. There is 2 catch basins that are proposed, one to drain the rear of the site, the other to the front. It would proceed into a 4,000 gallon grit chamber, and after being the suspended solids being settled in the grit chamber into the contactors and to the outflow at the southeast corner of the site. The system in the front is meant to handle the first half-inch of runoff from the roof drains to replenish the groundwater table. And the small 2-foot wide trench that you see along it is to capture the waters from the green areas running north and south from Mill to Plymouth and then along Plymouth Street. And the ultimate discharge again is to the southeast corner where the wetlands are. It is a wet depression and doesn't really qualify as ILSF, where it holds less than a quarter acre foot of water. The elevations and so forth of the drainage system are shown on sheet number 4. Yeah, that's 4. Test pits were done. Those are shown, I believe, on sheet 6 of 6. And, it has all the pipe slopes, the rim and elevations of the inverts, pipe sizes, and so forth. Shows the 6-inch roof drains connecting into both sides of the infiltration system. And the rear of the lot gently sloped at 3-to-1 out towards the east of the site. Sheet number 5, I think we're on here. I don't know. No, there it is. Okay, yes, that's it. Sheet 5, the site will be serviced. There's a force main in Plymouth Street. We plan to tie into it with an Enviro-1 pump. And the other details to the top left is the roof drain infiltration system with below it the connections. The test pits that were witnessed by the town at in 2015, I guess it might have been. The hoods in the catch basins and a standard drain manhole, and then a cross section of the grit chamber, and details of the trench that will infiltrate any surface runoff on the west side of the site and the south side. Sheet 6. Sheet 6 has some notes about the handicap ramp and the warning stripe, the screening for the dumpster, typical sign, and the water connection, which will be 1-inch plastic that would feed the 4 bays, and a typical on the edge of the sidewalk, a concrete sort of a retainer there. Other than that, I don't have anything to add at this particular time. If the board has any questions or the review for the, by the town planner, would greatly appreciate any input at this point.
Mr. Koska, can you go back to the site plan that shows the landscape plan?
Yep, that would be sheet number 2. Yep, that one.
So just one of the new requirements since the last approval was, and it looks like you have it there. It's just, do you have 20 feet landscaped off all, except for, it says the planning board may require in the industrial A, business B, et cetera, 20-foot wide landscape strip. So that looks like down Plymouth Street and Mill Street, you have 20 feet everywhere, correct? Except for the entrance. You're all the way back at
41.
41, okay.
We're at 41, yes, sir. And
Okay.
we're at 40 off of Mill. And let's see, I'm looking for any others. And we are 68 feet from the closest point to the ILSF, which I think the way the rules and regs read is that it's from a bordering vegetated wetland, where an ILSF is, or wet depression is the least stringently protected by the Wetland Protection Act.
And just where you have a residential structure behind you, there'll be a natural buffer that will remain between that.
The closest one that I know of
Is
is
that-
up Mill Street. Is that correct, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman, that you're
20
talking about?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the residential AB. But it looks like you're leaving a lot of natural, but you have wetlands there and stuff anyway, right?
You have the entirety of Blood Pond that's there, and essentially with the wetland edge and so forth, there is a good buffer zone there, and there's not enough room to build any other houses or anything like that. So it will remain that way going. It would be northeasterly from the easement up Mill Street and going southeasterly from where, you can see the pond from Plymouth Street. There will be no changes there as far as any clear cutting or what if you went by the site today, that's what you would see, let's say, hopefully in a year from now.
But just to answer my question, where you show the overhead wire and the Edison easement, between that overhead wire and the business B and that residential, I mean, there's 3 districts there. Wow, that existing vegetation is going to remain, correct? On the other
Yeah.
side of these, okay.
Anything that's there now is remaining.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's no, that'll be all grass, that'll be all grass from the building out to Plymouth Street, correct?
Yes, it will be.
And some tree plantings, okay.
Right, so we have a good, green area as far as the approach of people either going down Mill Street to Plymouth or going down Plymouth to, in an easterly direction. The front of the building will be landscaped and buffered from, let's say, the back.
Yeah, maybe add some trees along Plymouth Street or something. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have other board? I know we don't have the technical review, but do we have any other board comments at this point or staff comments?
Let the board go first and then I'll add my comments.
Any board members have anything to say or add?
So we're good
No.
with we're good with the Cape Cod berm coming in off the entrance off of Mill Street, or does that have to be something else?
Cape Cod berm, it seems, is a standard that granite is very hard to find, number one, and Cape Cod berm, if you recall, granite was the choice, let's call it, of residential roads and so forth, and that went to Cape Cod berm. So we're proposing Cape Cod berm here, 12 inches wide, 6 inches tall.
Well, let's wait and see Mr. Tanzi's comments on that. He might, is there vertical granite on the street now? What's on the street now?
I don't think there's anything at the street. If anything, it would be either there's no curbing there at all, or it would be Cape Cod.
Mr. Geller, anything else?
Nothing at this time.
This is pretty preliminary because we don't have that technical review, so.
One thing I'd like to mention, if I can, Mr. Chairman, at this point, this plan, pretty much the very same plan came before the board in 2015, and then, a little bit of a direction change where it went back before the board in 2016 as a restaurant. So we're back to the first rendition in 2015. And it is essentially has stayed the same. Very few changes, if any.
If there's no other board comments this time, I'll open up the public comment. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to address this project? Mr. O'Brien, I don't see anybody.
I don't see anyone with their hands raised at this time.
Okay. Mr. O'Brien, we'll come back to you. Do you have some staff comments?
Sure thing. Just a couple notes. I did provide as part of this application, the previous decisions that were made at the site. So reviewing the site plans from 2015 and 2016, it's not too dissimilar to what was approved in the past. I do note as part of these plans that we do want to have a better idea of where water is coming into the site, as well as the sewer that's going into the site, and making sure that they're properly labeled on the plans. I know that there's information in the detail sheets about the sizes, but we just want to make sure that they're on the actual utility plans. Additionally, too, there is a note of shrubs and plants on the plan. We just want to know what the type of shrubs and plants, as well as mentioning additional shade trees that could be incorporated at the site.
So just to top on that, Mr. O'Brien and Mr. Koska, it's not, last time you submitted this, we didn't have the requirement, so you might just want to look at 6.4.2. It's just the board may require a buffer strip. You already have the 20 feet, but just call out that it's lumen seed and then the types of plantings you're going to use in those areas.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I know that there was a couple plans that were done, and I believe one off of South Street that a landscape architect who's no longer available specified some sort of type of maple. I'll see if I can't look that up, and it makes sense where Shane's comment was a shade tree where we could put that in the middle of these islands. And we're looking at rhododendrons, low growing junipers, and some, maybe some flowers and so forth to make the site look very presentable. We do have a garden center across the street, so we have a good source there to maybe get plants from.
And you probably can't add any big maples or anything on top of the infiltration bed between the building and Plymouth Street, but if you could call that out as grass and some low growth plantings, that won't affect that infiltration bed. Just try to incorporate,
Yeah, it was.
Thank you.
It was noted as well. I provided as part of my memo that National Grid in 2015 provided comments, and they wanted to make sure that the easement was able to be accessed and kept as such. So there were some comments in 2015 regarding making sure that no trees. Additionally, too, just briefly mentioning a lighting plan for the site, making sure that the everything's properly following dark sky regulations and no light is spilling off the site, making sure that everything's downward facing. And I think the last thing that we had was the rear of the property. I know we got some elevation plans and architectural plans for the site, but discussing the possibility of some hatch marks in front of the garage base. I know there's some space there in the 30-foot area where the garage doors are. Just considering the possibility of some hatch marks to just kind of indicate where, making sure that there's no incidences in terms of vehicular traffic, interfering with each other. But that's all I had.
All right. That I understand where Shane is coming from. We can do that. the water answer is shown on the plans, but the labeling is poor. I think inadvertently the designations were left out. They're shown, I believe, on sheet 4, where the water is coming out of each bay, and then the other line that goes towards Plymouth Street is anticipated to be the sewer line. And if you look at the proposed contour 37, there should have been a circle there with a sewer, an S for sewer indication right in there. And we will clearly label that so that there's no question. As you know, the water and sewer department gets involved between them. We want to make sure that they're satisfied and choose the right spot. So it might deviate a little bit from what the plans are, but we certainly want to accommodate the best spot as far as working with all the town boards that are involved.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Costco. Mr. O'Brien, do you have anything else?
Nope, not at this time.
Anybody from the board of the town at this point? Any additional public comments or any public comments at all on this project? Mr. O'Brien, you mentioned April 3rd is our next meeting, but you wanted to keep that just for zoning. Do you want to move this to the 17th?
I just think that I would say it would probably be more appropriate to hash things out. I don't think there was anything too major on this, but I think this could be closed out and wrapped up for the 17th, if that's okay with the applicant.
Fine.
Okay, so if there's no more discussion and no public comment, or nothing left from the town, can somebody make?
So, Mr. Chair, are we gonna get into, what's the height of the building they're proposing?
It's on the memo from Mr. O'Brien, 38 feet, I think, and it's allowed, it allows for 40. Let's see, where's my memo?
Really? The elevation 22, so you're saying that according to the elevations, you're at 22 feet, and you're saying it's 38? So
So
it's 14, that doesn't make sense.
The zoning analysis provided shows max height 40 feet in that zone, proposed 38.
What about the 22 minute?
Could you yeah, I guess, Michael, could you
That's-
clarify what the height of the building would be?
Yeah, I mean, you got a floor elevation at 100, and then you got an eve elevation at 122. So you're telling me that the top of the peak of your roof is that high at a 1 in 12 pitch? That doesn't seem right.
Oh, that doesn't seem right. I don't think it's that high. It's just got a rendition. Oh, no, it's got a plan.
Why don't we have that confirmed as part of our meeting on the 17th? Is that good, Mr. Geller? Just
Yeah,
point-
yeah, that's fine. We can dig more in.
Yeah, we did receive elevation plans probably 2 days ago, so that wasn't incorporated into any memo, so happy
Yeah.
to look
So-
those over again.
Yeah, so the architecturals we received, do you want to bring those up, Shane? Or
Yeah,
you-
I can,
Mr. Costco, do you have the architecturals you submitted to us?
let me do it quickly.
The elevations or the,
Right there, yep, right there.
You got them? Okay.
And you sent us colored ones today, right?
no, that was the rendition.
Yeah, that was the,
That was a red.
3D,
So the 3D that we got today, it's the same as these plans that you're showing us now. There we go, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So according to these elevations, from grade to the bottom of your eve is 22 feet.
That would be here.
So
Probably
you're
25.
saying that's 38 to
20
that pitch.
25.
That-
No, that's wrong. It's 25 to here.
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense.
That makes a lot more sense, right? Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
I don't know if it's on the elevation or not.
All right, so we have to wait for the
Floor plan.
for the technical review. Mr. Koska is gonna work on the screening and buffering plan. And Mr. Tansey is gonna get the comments over. And what else are we waiting for, Mr. O'Brien? The lighting plan, correct?
Yeah, information about lighting and planning types would suffice.
All right,
Elevation 122 is the eve.
I'll make a motion to continue this to April 17th at 6:30.
Should be 122 inches.
I can second that.
No, 122 from 100.
Oh,
Mi-
Floor is
Mr.
122.
Mr. Koska, can you mute yourself while you do your math, please? I'm sorry, thank you. All
We have a second by Astrid.
right, I lost my train of thought. So who made the motion?
Steve
did.
and then Astrid seconded it.
By Mr. Geller? Excuse me, Ms. Rojas made the motion, correct?
Nope, Steve
No.
made the motion, Astrid made the second.
By Mr. Geller, motion, second by Ms. Rojas. Any discussion? Mr. Haley,
Yes.
Ms. Rojas,
Yes.
Mr. Geller,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So this is continued until April 17th at 6:30.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. O'Brien, you ready to go?
Yeah, let me just pull up the legal ad.
Okay, so still under item 3, public hearings, new. The next public hearing we have is 815 Bedford Street. This is map 88, lot 23. Site plan review, section 10.6 for a new commercial retail building, as well as self-storage facilities and other site improvements. We have a public hearing notice that was for 815 Bedford Street, legal notice, Bridgewater Planning Board, public hearing notice. On Wednesday, March 20th, 2024, at 6:30 PM, the Bridgewater Planning Board will conduct a public hearing via Zoom on an application by 815 Bedford Holdings LLC for site plan approval, section 10.6 of the Bridgewater zoning ordinance to construct a new commercial office building and self-storage facilities with site improvements on 4.7 acres located at 815 Bedford Street, Bridgewater, Mass. Assessors map 88, lot 23. The plans were prepared by Silver Engineering Associates and are on file in the office of the town clerk and the CED office and the website. All interested persons are encouraged to attend. The Bridgewater Planning Board posted this in the Brockton Enterprise on 3/6 and 3/13/2024. And Mr. O'Brien, we received the green cards
That is correct.
and the fees have been paid for this, Mr. O'Brien.
Absolutely.
And just so everybody, I've said this 3 times already tonight, but for people that are just joining, it is a public hearing. We're going to ask the applicant to make their presentation. We'll then turn it over to the board and the staff, and then we will allow for public comment on the project. So we can turn it over if somebody's here from Silver Engineering or somebody else.
Good evening. Lawrence Silva from Silver Engineering Associates. Offices at 1615 Bedford Street, Bridgewater. Rebecca Baptista is also on with me. And there are representatives from my client's office that are also here. We are talking about parcel identified as 815 Bedford Street, also assessor's map 88 lot 23. It's located on the westerly side of Route 18. I don't know if Rebecca, you might want to bring up just the existing conditions part. We're located on the westerly side of Route 18, and on 2 sides it's bordered by Romney Road. From Bedford around to it eventually Romney Road goes back out to Winter Street. The site is 4.7 acres in size. It's entirely uplands, and it historically was owned for, I would say, for decades by the LeMay family. And there was a house central to the site, and there was a business out front on Bedford Street, a fireplace business where they sold basically stuff for your fireplace. And they operated out of there for, I don't know, for decades, I would say. My client has acquired the site, would like to put it into commercial use here, and has proposed 2 businesses on the site. It'll be basically in the front, if you could just go to the site layout. 2 businesses, one which is a hardware store that would be facing Bedford Street, and to the rear of that would be a self-storage facility, one large building which is a controlled environment storage, and then 3 standalone single-story structures behind it, as you can see there. Entrance, and I will say that when we talk about the site itself, the site actually is a very challenging site in that, if you can go back just for a second to that existing conditions, the topo on this site is has elevations that are along Bedford Street, which are close to like elevation 70 in that area. To the right, where the Gabriel's Pad Corporation is located, they jump up into the mid 80s. And to the rear on Romney Road, they come down from those like elevation 80 all the way down to the bend in Romney Road, which is somewhere around 65, and then come across pretty more flat along that stretch until it comes back out to Bedford Street in around 65, 66, somewhere in there. So you can see that there's a lot of differences in elevations to have to deal with in terms of design. As far as a design team, there are a number of professionals involved in this project, along with Silver Engineering. The McPhail Associates geotech company has been involved and did test borings on the property itself. We have 2 architectural firms. We have Dean Associates that are for the self-storage facility, and Chu and Company for the Ace Hardware facility out front. Landscape architect is Melissa Desjardins. And the traffic consultant is Bowman. It's McMahon Associates, which is a Bowman company. And the sign design is by Brenner Signs. So as you can see, this is a lot of professionals here, a lot of work going into the design to make sure that it's a good project, both for the client and for the town of Bridgewater. So the way that the project is laid out, there is a main driveway entrance towards the northerly end of the site along Bedford Street. That entrance is a shared entrance to provide the entrance to the self-storage facility up the driveway on the right. And going to the left, it is the entrance to the Ace Hardware facility. And parking is provided in those areas for both uses. Once you go up that driveway to the self-storage, there is an office in that corner of the building, and there are some spaces located right adjacent to it for anyone that's doing business at the office. And I say that because that's the area in which it's unsecured. So in other means that there is security gates on the northern side and on the eastern side of the building, which controls access to the remainder of the site. So, but if you're doing business, either to rent a unit or to pay a bill, or for whatever reason you're going into the office, you don't have to go in through the secured section. You can go in freely into that area. There are I'll stay at the front there with the Ace Hardware, just so that you understand that one. Along with the parking that's in that area, there's drainage that's located to the south of the building itself, which is to control both the roof drainage and the stormwater runoff from that section of the site. The area it has, we'd see it on another view, but there's landscaping, but there's also dumpster enclosure to the rear of the building, and there's a propane filling station on the site on the right side to the rear of the building. It's the operator of this IES Hardware has other locations. He's a class act in terms of being able to operate these, and he will do a great job here. And I believe the demand for a hardware facility in this location is really needed. I mean, we got a lot of homes in this section of Bridgewater. We don't have any other kind of facility similar to this other than going all the way over across town to Home Depot. There is no other facility like this other than going up to Dewhurst and East Bridgewater, going down by the lake in Lakeville, or way over to this to the Hannaford Plaza in Middleborough. So there's nothing really close to this. It really is a great location for it. And the same thing goes for the self-storage. Both these uses are geared to handle the demand from the community now, and with the addition of additional homes, like one of the projects that we have on Curve Street, there's 150 single-family homes that are being built on the old Cumberland Farm site, plus all the other growth that's happened in town says that a self-storage facility is a definite need in this area. The self-storage, it's a 3-story structure. When you go past the area coming up that driveway and you go through the security gate, you then get to the loading area for the upper level. That brings you into the 2nd level of the building. There's one level above that, the 3rd. If you go around the building and you come around to the lower side of that building, you're now at the 1st level of that building. And that, so you're dropping down from the higher 80s down to the high 70s. And that's how we're basically taking care of that challenge that we have for grade change on the site, so that we can still meet the grades on the Pad Corporation end of the property, and then transition down as we need to towards the Romney Road side. We're proposing to actually have roof drains, for the self-storage facility. The roof water will go to infiltration along the way, and the surface water will find its way down to the detention basin, the stormwater controls that are to the rear of the site. We provided drainage calculations which show that we're able to handle all the storm events to the 100-year and stay below 90% peak and volume, and which basically handling everything that is up to that level of storm, handling it on site within those basins. We do provide for a stone area on the side of the large basin that is there as an emergency overflow, but for the calculations, we're not even showing that there's any flow going in that direction. On the Romney Road, we do have an entrance on Romney Road, but that is a secondary entrance. It's really, its primary purpose is to provide for trucks that leaving Ace Hardware from deliveries. They go around the back of the building and then have a straight shot out to Romney Road, and then be able to turn and go back out the Flag. It's not only for that use. It can be used as an entrance to come in the back way into the hardware facility, and presumably you could go to the self-storage that way, but I really see that that's actually really a way for you to get there. You're going to come in the main entrance if you're going in that direction. we've tried to do this in a way that is tasteful, that it fits, it fits the location well. And if I can show you the elevations of the eight. Want to start with the Ace Hardware first. Now, so there's the Ace is giving a location. You got it right there.
Give me a second. I didn't have that one ready to go.
No, you didn't.
No, it was a sticky click. Hang on.
See, if I talk out of order, I mess her all up. See that?
Okay. Yeah. And no, that's the colors. Look, it's beautiful.
Yeah, the colors there, and the look of it is more a I want to say more of a Bond kind of look, or a country kind of look in that design. It's a nice looking building, and I think that fits in extremely well. And this is the one that was done by Chu and Company, and it's a center entrance to the Ace. And like I say, propane will be to the right and so forth.
I'll put up one of the renderings. Let me put up a rendering.
Yeah, the rendering to show what that looks like.
Hang on. They're pictures. They're not PDFs. Now I'm totally breaking it, folks.
Now, while she's doing it, I have been referring to the self-storage with the generic name, but it's actually Life Storage is the name of the business that will be operating there.
Oh, I gotta switch screens. This is why Larry has me doing it, because I now have to switch screens, share it again.
I can get Mike Koska to do it for you.
Dyer did a great job.
Dyer, I'm sorry. Drew.
How are we doing? Is it up there? No.
I thought Drew did pretty well.
Not there yet. I'm sorry. Where are you all?
So while she's doing that, I just will tell you that the Ace building is a 10,000 square foot building, and that the buildings for the self-storage there are three, and the sizes of them are.
Got it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, there you go. Now there's your big picture right there. So you're able to see how it all holds together. And you can see that how Romney Road is over to the far left. And it actually, although it shows trees in the back, it doesn't show where Prisco's is. Prisco's is right there where it shows like trees back there. That's really Prisco's. And you can see, actually, I think one of the benefits of this project is that by taking down the grades that are adjacent to Romney Road, you end up with a much more open area there. And actually, I think it improves the visibility to Prisco's on the back side of this. It's just a secondary benefit that comes out of having the drainage on the left side of both of these buildings. I think that the placement of the trees, as they're shown here in this rendering, and then as they're shown on the landscape architect's plan, might be something that we might want to look at in terms of how to maximize visibility to the Prisco side, so that they don't have just the trees taken out and the grade come down, and then have it replaced by trees that also take away that visibility. So there's got to be a balance in there, and I think that we can achieve that balance and make the project still look good, meet the requirements of the planning board, but yet be a friendly neighbor to projects that are already along the stretch. I think it gives a chance for this to really blend into what's happening here. You can see on the Life Storage, you can see visually how the loading area is up at that second level. And as you go around the building, you come back down to the first level, which is the lower level for those one-story buildings. So the ACE building is about a 20, I think the maximum height's like 27 feet, I think it is. And on the life storage, the side, it's the high side is like 27 feet, and the low side is 37 feet would be the total height from ground. But on the north side, it's really, you can see it's not that big a building when you look at it this way. It fits in nice the way it is. You can see the propane storage. You get a pretty good and the dumpster enclosures. You get a good feel for how the site will function and how it will look. I think this gives you a really good perspective of that. Lighting, we've done a lighting analysis. Photometrics have been provided to show that that we're providing lighting, but we're not lighting up the universe. There were questions that were asked about about hours of operation. We've provided for hours of operation, and Ace Hardware basically is a Monday through Saturday, 7:30 to 6 p.m. kind of operation, and Sundays 9 to 5 p.m. And the life storage has office hours like 9:30 to 6 p.m. And they have access hours to the facility from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So this is not a 24-hour kind of situation where you have to worry about people coming in. There's access. Once you get past that 10 p.m. Time frame, you can't get access through those security gates in order to go into the facility. So it's I think that's pretty much the overview of it. We did finally just before I was leaving today, I did get a memo from engineering with some comments, but obviously I haven't had a chance to actually address anything that was identified there. But with that, I would open it up to any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Silva. Just a quick question. Can you, Ms. Baptiste, can you go back to the site plan?
Of course, that's going to
Thanks.
take me another 5 minutes here. Sorry. Wait, maybe not. Maybe not. It's already open. It's right here. Okay, hang on. Site plan. This button. Yes.
So could you, all right, so just, and I know there's a landscape plan that I looked at. I don't think we looked at that in this.
No, but it's here.
presentation.
If I can bring it up if you'd like.
Well, it's all right. Just so I can start off my question. So from pavement to Bedford Street, that scales 1 to 30 there. It looks like, what is that? How many feet is that? And we're trying to maintain that 20-foot landscape buffer strip in the business B zone. Is that more than 20 feet?
I would have to double check that. We'll slide to this one where we have a setback line. I'm going to say we're just shy of it. So the front setback is 30. So we may just be shy on this corner where it kind of comes together.
Okay, and I think, all right, so that's just, I'm just looking at the performance standards, for landscape and site development and stuff. So, so the next thing I wrote down just during your presentation, you provided a cut and fill analysis. How much material, have you quantified how much material is expected to be taken off site?
It was on the cut and fill page.
Oh, I didn't see that.
There was an actual number. I don't have it in my head, and it is hang on. Okay. Right here. Approximately 38,000.
38,000 cubic yards. And that's because a lot of the site is, like I say, it comes from that elevation 80 all the way down to 65, but it comes down abruptly down to Romney Road.
Yeah, I just think that's something we have to be mindful of when we do our conditions, so that there's some conditions as to how that happens, so it's not too disruptive to the, so it's not disruptive to the residents behind it and the businesses around it, so.
So the traffic, so basically funneling the traffic more right directly to Bedford Street,
Well,
as opposed to coming out Winter Street side.
I just know we've had problems,
Yes.
we heard about problems on other sites that just dust control and on weekends and stuff like that. So I just think that's just, thanks for pointing that out. We just have to be mindful.
Yeah,
when
so
we-
that
when
you
we
can
do it.
condition it so that it doesn't,
Impact
it's
anybody.
people are driving in and out of there on Sundays, taking material out or late at night and stuff like that.
And what route there? Okay, so,
I wish that we could have done it in a way that wouldn't have to have that much export. I mean, it wasn't a goal to try to export material out of the site. It really is the only way that this site can really be developed properly.
so looking at that architectural rendering by Dean Associates, kind of put everything into perspective, and that's a big building in the back there, that full service storage.
Yeah.
And then
It's
just,
a climate control building.
and then just trying to balance the performance standards that we have that talk about, minimizing the impacts on adjoining properties, location size, design of buildings, preserve and enhance the scenic points. There's a number of things in here that talk about land disturbance preservation, and then there's another one that talks about, because it does look like, I'm looking at this, just that picture you showed, like most of this 4.7 acres is going to be cleared, correct?
No, I mean, we meet the open space requirements and
Well, I'm saying as far as the existing
you're
vegetation.
talking about in terms of site preparation?
Correct.
In terms of site preparation, a good portion of it does have to be adjusted in order to get to the development levels that you have to get to. Keeping in
So-
mind that we still have to be able to, we have to form and have sufficient area for the stormwater collection and treatment of water, and still make all the grading work. And when you're trying to blend into, like I said to you in the beginning, elevations that are in the area of 70 down to 67 along Bedford Street, then along pretty flat along that section, about the southern section of Romney Road in the mid 60s, and then it starts to climb up as you're going up Romney Road from the 65, say up to 80.
Yep.
And then you got the pad corporation side, which is like in the over 80, 85 maybe, I think, in that area.
86, yeah.
Yeah, 86 up there.
Did you look at the site at all? Just again, looking at the goals, like preservation, and it talks about, it says priority shall be given to preservation of existing trees at the perimeter of the property, and then it talks about berms at 6.7. It says the planning board may require berms. There's already really a natural berm all along Romney Road with existing perimeter trees. Is it possible to work the site to, limit the clearing in that perimeter and to maintain that berm to try to achieve some of the goals of the larger projects?
I don't see a way. I don't see a way. I mean, we have to come back down and to match into those grades at Romney Road. We come back up to the drainage basins by coming up at the 3-to-1 slopes. We meet all those requirements for grading. And it's really, as you see it right there, that grading page, it's really a standard design for stormwater management and so forth. That is the way that area needs to be designed. And then replacing it with the greenery, I would say low growing and then trees. I think you can still achieve a good look to the site, but it's not one where you can say, well, we can leave all the trees here and still do what we're looking to try to do here. That's not possible.
Does that, and I know this is a Concom thing, but just looking at the wall that's being removed in the existing grades, does that wall provide significant benefits to the wetland that's right across the street?
No.
Okay.
The only thing that wall provided was that Romney Road was down in the mid-60s elevation wise, and the LeMay property climbed from 65 up, because it was down like it went over actually where Romney Road was in that area, and it goes all the way up into the mid-80s, right? Right in the first section, it climbs right up into the mid-80s. Like right where those test pits are there, those 83, you see how fast that's climbing.
So then in the
So what we're
dean,
doing is we're putting it back so that it comes up at a rate at which it should, and that's a 3-to-1 slope coming up. And then once we reach the crest of that area for the stormwater management, that width is what you get for that transition. And then the rest of it is the forming of that basin, which is a nice green open basin.
so the next question is the riprap that you show for the drainage. How much water will spill onto Romney Road and into the wetlands? Will any right there? Or no?
That's there for emergency. It's not in our calculations. It doesn't even show a discharge to there up to at least 100-year storm.
Okay, and then the last thing I wrote down, just looking at the Dean illustration, is that it shows that it appears that Romney Road is paved in that illustration. Is there any plan to pave Romney Road around that area or no?
There was no. It was not a plan to do any pavement on Romney Road, short of what is necessary to go from Bedford Street to the entrance on that side. We're open to that being a paved portion in there, but the amount of traffic that we're really saying is going to be coming that way is no different than what's being served right now by the gravel road that goes back to Prisco's. I mean, there's no real difference in terms of, if you look at the traffic study, the McMahon traffic study, it's very limited, the amount of traffic that the site is going to see from either entrance in terms of intensity of use.
And then just Mr. O'Brien's comments, that this is going to be divided into 2 lots, and you will provide it. I think you did this afternoon. You will provide calculations in his analysis. There are no calculations about lot coverage and all that stuff.
Yeah,
So
we sent over snippets of it for the overall site, but we'll also show it broken down for a line that will divide a business lot from an industrial lot, only because that's the way the zoning shows. But the site is going to function as one site. That line that will divide the 2 lots basically will put the ACE on sort of a rectangular kind of piece, and the remainder will be with the life storage. But they will have cross easements for everything.
But the requirements as far as building coverage and open space for each lot will be met, correct?
That's correct.
Correct.
And then, what was my last question? I just wrote it. Oh, yeah, so it was the splitting of the lot and the table. Okay, I got it. All right, so is there other board members, comments at this time, questions?
I've got a couple questions, if I may, and comments as well. I'm just reading them when we talk about that the existing Romney Road there. What's the private way variable width mean for my information, please?
Well, what that means is that when Romney Road became a way, it wasn't like a road that comes out of a subdivision process that would be, say, a 40-foot wide uniform road. It's a road that was basically the traveled way that was in existence when it was established as a private way. So when it's variable width, it means it's not uniform. In some areas, it could be wider than other areas, and that's why even some even streets within the town are sometimes variable width. Only after the 1950s did you really get to roads being more standard in terms of uniform width.
And again, thank you. And again, due to my ignorance and new to the board, but is this an actual private way?
Is it a what?
Private way?
Yeah, on Romney Road is a private way.
Okay.
It's basically within the deed. The rights to Romney Road are within the deed of this property, and it's within the deed of, I think, about 3 or 4 other properties.
Okay. And then just comments, with the grade and all that pavement, I know you've got some drainage work for those buildings, but simply having had a storage unit in a similar layout in a couple towns away during some really heavy rains, there's a lot of water flowing down there, and you've got a really nice water slide down to a wetland, and I know Chairman had made that comment as well. Not being super educated on that, I'm just making an observation as a person that's had storage units in a similar scenario and watched that water flow down and maybe lost a package or two in it. That's a lot of water.
Yeah, I will say to you that the first mini storage or self-storage that I actually designed was probably in about 1985. And I've done many of them for earlier in my career for companies that used to extra space storage and ones that went to public storage and others. And I did them across the country, not just in this region. And drainage is always the thing that you really got to pay attention to, because people put goods in units to keep them dry. They don't put them in there to have something get wet.
Water's going to go where gravity takes it.
That's correct.
And there was a third one. If it comes back to me, I'll circle back around. One other, actually, the comment that building B, the main building, that is massive, and I don't know where the proximity to that home is behind there on the. I don't know where it falls along the lines of those buildings. With the backside of that Romney Road, they're going to have a beautifully unobstructed view of that building, I suppose. And seeing as how you mentioned in softer words than maybe the chairman mentioned in clearing the lot, I mean, it's pretty evident that the vast majority of any vegetation there is going to be wiped out to create your slate to begin the building process, save for literally a handful of trees I'm judging. So the view from the backside of that development opposite Bedford Street is going to be a widescreen for that resident and whoever is at that side of that property to see. That's it for now.
I would point out that it is a business zone.
Yes.
Okay, any other board comments or questions at this point? Mr. Geller, Ms. Rojas, anything?
I have nothing right now.
We have not received any, well, we did receive, I'm sorry. We did receive a technical review today. I haven't had a chance, like Mr. Silva, to look at it. Mr. O'Brien did provide a letter with some of his concerns and some analysis. Mr. O'Brien, do you want to add anything, or can we go to public comment and then come back after we hear some public comment?
I'm open to public comment first, and then I can chat afterwards.
Okay, let me pull up the screen. So is there anybody here from the public that would like to speak on the project?
2 hands up.
Here we have
I can't see in it.
we have Carlton Hunt.
So Dr. Hunt, go ahead, sir.
Yes, hopefully you can hear me.
Yes, sir.
I have a quick.
We know who you are, but can you state your name and address, please?
Carlton Hunt, Austin Street, Bridgewater, chairman of the Town's Energy Committee. That picture that's up there shows lots of flat roof. I don't know what the square footage is, but as a person concerned about climate change and changes, the fact that we're removing trees, is there a plan to solarize each of those buildings? I know that the climate control building is going to be a large energy demand. Are you planning to actually use solar power to power most of that building? Thank you.
Mr. Silva, could you?
Well,
address
as you
that,
can
or-
see in that illustration, I don't know if you can see it, Colin, I don't know if you're actually seeing anything. That does show solar panels on the roof of that life storage building.
Thank you. I'd suggest all of the buildings, quite frankly.
Okay, is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak on the project?
Yeah, we have a resident, Ray Jemian here.
Show me, Mr. Resident of Jemian?
Yeah, resident of Jemian, thank you.
We know who you are, but now you have to state
Yeah,
your
I
name and
know,
address for the
I
record,
know,
please.
I know the procedure. Ray Jemian, 221 Aldridge Road. I'm speaking as the chair of the tree committee in this moment. Before I make a comment, I'd like to know roughly how many acres of trees are going to be cut down?
Rebecca, can you show an aerial that shows the site? Do you have one there?
One moment, I can pull one up. If I do this,
I would say that the trees are more along the perimeter of the site, the middle section of the site and the front of the site are less treed. I mean, there's more openness in those areas.
Well, my comment would be this, the tree committee came about because of the fact that developers have given us money in order to plant more trees around town. And the idea is that if you're going to trees are important, and if you're going to cut trees down, that there should be some replacement. And so I would ask, as this project moves along, that there be some discussion about a payment to the town for the fact that the trees are going to be cut down. We can work, the monetary amount can be worked out. But I think it's good for everybody. It's good that if the business goes in, at the same time, it's important that we try to keep our environment as good as it is. So I would hope that as this project moves along, that there's a discussion about a monetary amount given to the town that would be used exclusively for the planting of new trees around town. We are doing that right now. There's money being given from that fund for the planting of trees around the senior center as we speak. So I just hope that there's discussion between the developer and the planning board to that end. Thank you.
Thank you, resident Jemian.
All right, we have David Gabriel with his hand raised.
Good evening, everybody. David Gabriel, 22 Elmwood Crescent, and owner of the adjacent building at RJ Gabriel Construction, 785 Bedford Street. I just want to say that I am absolutely thrilled that we're going to be getting more business in town. I'm a firm believer that the town could definitely use more business, and it looks like it's going to be a very good use. My one concern is it is kind of self-serving. I'm curious to know if any of the trees along the border, the northern border of the property that's adjacent to mine, are remaining.
You want me to answer that?
Mr. Silva, please.
Yeah, if you go to the site plan, as you can, David, can you see the site plan?
I can.
Okay, so as you can see, we're matching into the grades that are on your property. So all trees that are on your property are definitely staying there. In order to make that work with the site as we're designing it, you can see where there's blue lines. That means there has to be grade changes. Okay, so there are areas like where the word map is, map 88. There are some areas in there that might be able to keep some trees because they're staying at the same grade as what they currently are. But as you can see to the east and west of that, there are areas where grading changes are happening. There's even a place where we need to put a small wall in order to make sure that we can match into the grades. I'm looking at towards the front. You see in that area there, we have to change some grades in there. So there is not as much of an opportunity to save the trees that are there. There is an opportunity to replace them with other trees. And as you go to the front of the site, in that front corner, as you're coming back down to the grade in that area, that's not an area that we changing any grades there, so there's an opportunity to keep some in that location.
I see that you have a fence towards the rear that looks like it's part of the security of the storage facility. Will that type of fence, will that be a clear view through fence, or will it be a solid fence?
I think it's slatted. I think it's
Is there a
slatted.
it's a slatted fence. So it's a security fence. It's a slatted fence.
I don't know if I had a detail. I can look. No, I just call it a black vinyl. I don't call it out as with slats covered, so we can revise that.
Well,
So
I mean, I'm not saying that if it's a black vinyl, we propose it as a black vinyl, it's being proposed as a black vinyl.
I guess my concern is that I'm looking for a little privacy on my end. I'm looking just so that that it, each business is contained within itself, I guess. With the trees that we had on both sides, mine and LeMay's, was never an issue. I know he had his residence back there, but he did have his business, and it was never really an issue. I'd like to maintain the same type of privacy that both lots share now, whether it be with trees or whether it be some sort of a fence. Is that reasonable?
Well, I mean, like I say, the trees on your side are not being touched because they're your trees. And then there's going to be a fence at the property line along that stretch. I mean, I don't see your operation is 15 feet lower than the top of that. Easily. The area that you're really operating on is down in the at least 10 feet lower. Maybe 15 feet lower than the top of that ridge. So the ridge itself is providing for that separation that you're not really seeing what's happening over, easily seeing what's happening over on the other side.
Just
We're
want
not
to
down
make
at that same plane that you're at.
Yeah, I just want to make a point that we're also addressing these comments through the chair, not to
I'm sorry.
back and forth, just for further discussions.
Sorry, I was reading, not paying attention. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's all right, Pat. I accept your apology. I see that the fence is going, partly through there. I was curious to know if a fence could be installed through the whole length of the property line. Through the chair.
I can discuss that. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Silva. As long as you guys don't start swinging at each other, I'm fine.
I don't think we ever have we, Dave? I don't think so.
Larry, we've always gotten along.
That's right. We don't show it as going along there. We only show it within the life storage area. I can certainly discuss that with the client.
I appreciate it.
Are you all set, Mr. Gabriel?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
All right, we had someone reach out through the chat named Elias. I'll unmute you.
Good evening, folks. Thank you for everyone for their time this evening. First and foremost, so I'm not coming as a part of.
Sir, just if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
My apologies. My name is Elias. I live on Caswell Way in Bridgewater, Massachusetts, off of Walnut, in the 104 area. So again, thank you all for being here this evening. I think I'm here because of a concern I have with just kind of the overall as a resident. I frequent down Flag Street. That's our traffic, or that's our school route, Flag to Bedford. We're also patrons of Prisco's. There was only one or two mentions of Prisco's, and it seems as though, I mean, my concern is, as patrons of that establishment, that there's not really much concern for the pre-existing businesses in that area. It's all about this Ace Hardware storage facility and how great of folks that are setting it up, but they don't live and work in this area, and they're not going to be impacted by it. Every summer, my kids and I are going down to Prisco's, we're grabbing some food, We're out watching movies. We're going to the mini golf course. We'll walk from the creamery down back to the country store. And that area is, because it's a private way right now and there isn't much traffic other than the folks that are going to Prisco's, that area is going to be very busy and unsafe. One of the members of the committee here had mentioned paving that road because you guys are going to open it up, and you say that there's not going to be much traffic, but with your public storage on the entrance from Winter Street and from Bedford Street, there's going to be a significant amount more traffic, especially because, you know, you guys are saying you're trying to, you know, clear out trees and it will give visibility to Prisco's. Well, now that additional visibility to Prisco's is going to draw people, your public storage is going to draw people, your entrance in and out of the Ace Hardware. And as a local area small business owner and a contractor, I don't mind going to the Home Depot or the Lowe's on 44. Ace Hardwares don't really service my business. That's a local, you know, DIY type stuff, smaller necessities, but 10 or 15 minutes over to the highway, it's not a big deal for me. So the Ace Hardware it's going to have use, but in a general sense, and I know I'm feeling long-winded here, and I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes, but from a consumer's perspective, it is going to change a family tradition that I've created. And I know a lot of our local area friends do the same thing. That's where we go in the summer. We meet over there. Our kids get out of soccer right out of Flag Street. We go down to Prisco's and we spend time there. And it's now no longer going to be a safe area because there's no private way or access or safety for our kids to just walk down the back and say, hey, Mom, Dad, I'm going to play golf and we'll meet you guys in a few minutes. So for me, while it's great, I think you guys are trying to squeeze a lot of juice out of a tiny little lemon here. And that's just my opinion as a local concerned resident.
All right, thank you.
sir.
All right, I have Christine Franco, who reached out. Christine, you can
Hi,
chat.
everybody. We are Christine and Matt Renko. We live at 7 Romney Road. We are the home that is right behind where these buildings are going to be built. Yep, that's us. So I'm hearing a lot of things that make my heart beat really fast and make me very nervous for my family. We've been here for 10 months. We've only just moved in from the city to what we thought was an oasis. Having all of this privacy for us was incredible. Meeting the Prisco's and seeing their business that's been there for 18 years. I feel like, saying to my husband all the time, I feel like I'm living in the mountains in New Hampshire. It's just a beautiful area. My kids walk down all the time. Like Elias was saying, my kids are always down at Prisco's in the summer. We see kids riding their bike down the street. And my heart is really nervous for what this is going to be. You keep talking about visibility, Mr. Silva, but now this is complete visibility into my home. And yes, you're working with a commercial lot, but please understand that ours is a residential and commercial lot. So we are your residential neighbors. And I'm actually shocked to hear that all those trees are coming down. If you come down my driveway and see where the property stake is, I literally could bump my back of my car into the property stake. So that means that all of those trees are coming down. We are going to be completely visible. I'm glad it's on a 24-hour. Prisco's closes at 7, 8 o'clock in the summer. I'm comfortable with that. Now I'm going to be worried about until 10 o'clock at night, trying to put my family to sleep, wondering who the heck is over at that self-storage unit. If you're going to cut down all the trees, how much lighting is going to be shining into our street? Like, how much is that going to be affecting me? Noise. I mean, the trees there'll be no buffer at all. So what I'm hearing, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is you're going to be cutting all the trees down and replacing them with less mature trees. Is that accurate?
Mr. Silva?
There is along the stretch, along Romney Road, you can see that there is planting shown along the strip between the road itself and the back of the storage facility.
Yes, I see that, and I'm looking at I printed it out so we could look at it here at home, but I guess it's just a little confusing for someone who's not familiar with this type of thing. what do those plantings look like? Are they 3 feet? Are they 6 feet? Are you going to plant mature pine trees in their place? I mean, how much am I going to be seeing when I go out my front porch of my home every morning?
I guess you can look at the planning schedule that's over there on the side to see the types of trees and so forth that are going to be planted there.
And they're going to be looking just like that, or they're going to be starting off small?
Well, they start off smaller.
They start off, it says
But they're
6 to 7
6 to
foot.
7 feet. And you see over there, some of them, the trees themselves, some of them are 6 to 7 feet. Some of them are plants that are in, a gallon. They're measured by gallons, not by size. But when you talk about the trees are not tiny trees, but they're not as huge as the ones that are currently in that area.
So
But
we don't have the architecturals up, but do you know the height of the building versus the height of the trees on Romney Road?
Well, when you talk about the individual, what you're opposite, the 1-story buildings is where you're located. And where those are located, in that stretch there, those are basically like 10-foot high buildings. Those are not really very tall buildings.
What's the height of the 3-story building the side facing Romney Road, do you know?
The side facing Romney Road depends because it's going up a grade at that point. So you're starting off at the highest point right there on that where it says lower floor slab 78 along that edge. From the driveway on that side to the top of the building is 37 feet. But as you go up the side of the building, you're now the building you're seeing less and less of the building. So to the top of that building on the backside, the top of that building is 27 feet, which is about the height of a house, the peak of a house.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add one more thing. As I'm looking at some of the bylaws here, one of them says there shall be a goal to protect the quality of life of neighboring residential properties. What I'm hearing is that I don't think you're able to fulfill that goal. I truly don't. The buffer area may be in the form of fencing, landscaping. So you're taking down these old, beautiful, tall pine trees where I can't see a thing now. I can see the stars. I can see the sky. I can see the beautiful landscaping at Prisco's and around me. And now I'm going to see the top of a building and probably out to Route 18 is my guess at this point.
No, no. You won't, if I can answer, Mr. Chairman, you won't be seeing out to Route 18, but you will see that row of planting, which will be screening your view of the buildings that are beyond it. And I don't know how much you know about self-storage, but self-storage is really one of the quietest uses that there is, because people bring stuff in and it stays. People don't come in and out of units and like it's a heavy use area. It tends to be very low traffic and low usage. I'm sympathetic to the fact that you have a residence there, and you say you've only been there 10 months. I don't know what people told you about this being a business B zone when you bought. I don't know. And I don't know if you operate a business out of your location or not. Do you, or is it strictly a residence?
Residents. We live here with our kids. So, I guess my major concern is just this project seems to be going to change the whole, dynamic of this whole area. It's pretty aggressive for this space. And I'm worrisome for that. I mean, great. Like we love hardware stores. Wonderful. Like this is great. Like we are business people. We want people to be in business. But you can't tell me that this is something that is, looking towards protecting the quality of neighbors, because I mean, if anyone else was in our shoes, I'm sure anyone on this board, they would be here at this meeting saying the same thing. So I think that needs to be taken into consideration. And I guess I'm almost shocked at the the way it's being handled as far as all the trees being taken down. So I don't know, I just, a lot can, people can say what they want to say, like, yeah, we care about the residents, we're gonna make sure this is great, but like really in the end, we know what it comes down to. It's money, it's a business. We don't, I understand how that works. I'm not naive to that. But at the same time, we moved to this community because of this sort of, wonderful like nature feel to it. And this is gonna totally, it's heartbreaking, to be quite honest.
Okay,
And
thank you.
I'll keep advocating for that as long as, we are allowed to, and we have these public meetings. I'm just going to keep advocating for that, because it's hard to be in our shoes, and nobody, not many people on this meeting are. So it's hard for you to empathize with that. I understand that, but I'm asking that you please do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have, oh, sorry, Pat. Oh, we have Steve Briscoe with his hand raised.
Yeah, Mr. Prisco, go ahead.
Good evening.
Yes, sir.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, name and address.
Yeah, Stephen Prisco, 130 Aldrich Road and 8 Romney Road in Bridgewater. I'm going to echo our neighbor's sentiment that this is a shock to us. I'll just cut right to the chase. I think, and I get it as a business guy for 38 years, you're trying to put 20 pounds of something in a 5-pound bag. And based on the current bylaws that I would request and that we will uphold, your tribunal, your board here, to do the right thing and follow the laws. And I appreciate I talked to Larry Silva today. It's the first time anybody has reached out to me, and a magnitude of this project, which I've been involved in, it's just not a good show. So from the get-go, how can we fail? Now, I could talk, and I think people that know me, we could be here for hours. We did hire an attorney. We are going to go the legal route. We're good neighbors. We're good people. We've invested everything into this community of Bridgewater. We've built a family-run, family-fun business. We have commercials going out this year that emphasize that. If you look at what's going on in society today as a whole, people are looking for an escape. They're looking for a place to go for an hour or two, and that they can afford, and that they can come and make family memories. And a big part of what my wife Nancy and I have been able to do in this community in the last 18 years, utilizing what we bought into with the private road, the coming and goings, as Christina just mentioned, with hosting summer basketball leagues and family outings, and people freely walk to and from our private road. Expecting to be in a project to remove a man's wall that the town forced me to do in 2006, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 at that time. I started by mowing lawns for $5. So I understand the value of things. I'm excited about True Value Hardware. It's about time that lot gets cleaned up. And maybe the illegal sign that's been sitting there for 15 years that nobody could take care of or address. The amount of taxes, job creation that my wife and I have put together. This is just the truth and the fact. And to what our neighbor just talked about, picture being in our shoes from a different angle or perspective. We're not going to go anywhere. We don't want to fight anybody. We're good people. We love our community. This project stinks. The True Value, we're all for it. Having a facility open with 30-foot roofs, being open till 10 o'clock at night, having to take my wall down to have an access road, for what and for who? Who is it? Nobody's ever come and knocked on my door. When I was forced out of my parents' backyard on Conan Street 20 years ago, and I was the only guy, the only person. Again, people can't do their jobs in town. Just the truth, people. Okay? And we found Romney Road. The first thing I did was go reach out to Mr. LeMay and introduce myself, who I was, and what position I was in, and what my intent was. More information than people would ever do to me. This is a classic example. I don't know who is the owner of this property. I know a name, never met him. Talked to him a year ago, invited him. Mr. Silva, I talked to him for an hour and 52 minutes today. Larry's a great guy, but separating personality from issue, I understand he's working for somebody. Larry reached out to me only because I reached out to a friend of the person that's presenting this and asked him why. Why do you have to come on to a 5-acre parcel in Bridgewater and remove all the old growth trees that mean a lot to people? Remove our wall, a wall that we have fiber optics, electrical, water lines under. For what reason? So they can stuff more into a one, as right now, one lot, even if they do subdivide it. Somebody had mentioned the water. Nancy and I had to spend $80,000 to put an underground septic system, if you will, just for drainage in the event of a 100-year storm that everybody knows happens every two or 3 years. And that was off one building, 5,400 square feet, half the size of the True Value building. Never mind the other 4 buildings. And guess what happens? Even with an $80,000 infiltration system, that water, as Mr. Jamian had mentioned, or somebody talking with Mr. Hunt, somebody, that water still finds its way. It comes beaming off our roof, down our parking lot, and races across into lands that we own. I think this is such a big project. And again, we're not anti-business. We need, there's new businesses along 18, and Larry and I discussed that today. I think it will be good for all of us. I think the more people that come down our way will probably find Prisco's even after 18 years. They'll find the new cafe. They'll find Mike's Automotive and get an oil change. They'll find the golf place. But you have to do that and disrupt, what we have going on there. I said to my wife the other day, what did we buy? Just airspace over at Romney Road. Our address is 8 Romney Road. When I talked to the engineer today, with respect to Mr. Silva, he makes it sound like we don't even own Romney Road, that they have the right to take that wall. If the roles were reversed, I would reach out and do it the way I was raised, respect and dignity and manners, and I would come and talk to somebody face to face, and I would hear them out. I wouldn't leave it up to a board or a government. And that never happened. And in respect to Larry, I appreciate his time and energies today. And there may be some bonuses or pluses for us. But as of tonight, I can't see it. And, everybody's, at the end of the day, everyone's got to do what they got to do. And I'm prepared to do that. I'm going to fight that wall never gets taken down. If that wall does get taken down and all those trees get taken down, I can tell everybody tonight, Prisco's is going to change the way people know it. Now, if that means I have to get all the families that love Prisco's for what it is, and all the organizations and all the charities and all the goodwill that we've done, I'll do it. And we'll pack the meetings and we'll do whatever we have to do. And we'll do it because it's America. And we'll do it diplomatically and professionally. And I feel we'll prevail because this is just a classic example of greed. We had an opportunity to buy that land. I had a number in my head. We couldn't go past it. There was no way we could do it. And probably most people, if they're listening tonight, are probably in the same situation. The people overpaid for the land. So for them to make this basic math work, they've got to do 2 separate businesses on one lot. So they're going to use the fine letters of the law and subdivide and do whatever. That's fine and dandy. Don't make us take our wall down. We like just the way it is. So don't our neighbors, and so don't thousands and thousands of other people. So this, again, time is money. I know Mr. McDonald, when I spoke with him 2 years ago, I asked him to come and see me, hasn't done it. Mr. Gabriel, respect him, longtime businessman in Bridgewater. I think somebody came and walked and talked with him. His issues tonight, his trees wanting to stay, and then a fence. What about Nancy and I? What about the Hrenkos out back? Nobody reached out to them that I'm aware of, and nobody reached out to us. And it's just not a good start off. So again, it's getting late for everybody here. I will just reiterate that I'm shocked that this project can't fit on that 5 acres without having to clear cut all of the old growth pine trees and to take down, that aesthetically beautiful wall that we have maintained for 18 years, along with the private road and the coming and going. So that's it for now. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Prisco. Hey, one thing that I did talk, and this is to the board and to everybody listening. One thing that I did, this is a large project, and like it or not, we did adopt new performance standards for larger projects that do require screening and buffering and ask to have the perimeter trees maintained and whatnot. So, that is in our new performance standards. So I think that maybe the best thing to do for the board to kind of get a perspective of the site from both sides, from both the applicant's perspective and from the abutters perspective, is what we've done in the past with the larger projects on Route 18 is do a site walk. So, we can continue with the public comment, obviously, until everybody has had a chance to speak. But I just want to throw that out there that I spoke to Mr. O'Brien about that earlier today, because that is something we've done in the past. And we do want to make sure that we are following the performance standards for larger projects and the site development standards. And just as I know, I was called out for not properly handling the meeting. I was reading the site standards, and one of the priorities is a priority shall be given to preservation of existing strands of trees at the perimeter. So I think we should look from both sides, from both the applicant side and the abutter side, and do a site walk to evaluate that. But we can make that motion at the end, and I can go back to the public comment. Mr. O'Brien.
Yeah, I don't see any other further comment at this time. I don't see any hand raised. But in terms of your, I guess, question in terms of a site walk, we would have to schedule a site walk.
Well,
at some point.
between now and the 17th, if we're going to have,
Sure.
if we're pushing site plans to the 17th and not the 3rd, correct?
Yeah, I would have to figure the availability of the board to have that site walk, and then post it publicly on the town's website. So there'll be an agenda for that. But yeah,
Right. And typically we ask for permission from the applicant if, we should know it beforehand. I mean, Romney Road, whoever has ownership or rights to Romney Road can obviously be on Romney Road, but we should get permission from the applicant as to whether or not abutters can come on the property or not. We should talk to Mr. Silver about that as well.
Sure thing.
And I know we did get a preliminary report from Mr. Tanzi today, and like Mr. Silver said, we just got it a few hours ago. I didn't even print it off. I didn't have a chance to look at it. So, we'll have to address that, between now and the next meeting as well. All right, so before we go back to staff and board comments, I don't want to close out public comment unless everyone's had a chance to speak. Has everybody had a chance to speak?
Let me check. All right, we have one in the chat, Stefano.
I can't see it. It must be in your chat. I don't have a.
No, I'll ask for them to unmute. We have a Stefano D'Amelia.
Stefano, yep.
Stefano.
Mr. D'Amelia, would you like to speak? Mr. D'Amelia?
You have the ability to speak.
Hello, Mr. D'Amelia?
Still on mute.
Yeah, still on mute. I don't know. It says won't let me unmute. Click on unmute.
Can you unmute?
I have been. guess they're having some technical issues.
Okay, so while we're waiting for Mr. D'Amelia, any final comments before we consider a site walk or continuing this by the board? Any final thoughts or comments or questions?
Oh, I would agree with you, Mr. Chair. The site walk is very valid on this project.
So typically on a site walk, we ask for certain points. Do we want, what would you like? What would we like to ask to be staked out? All the buildings? Just the main two buildings? What do we want to look at?
Is there any way to stake out where the trees are being cut down or that area?
Well,
Well,
I
it's,
think
it's right to the perimeter. That's right
Yeah,
now.
I would say that they're basically taking every tree down out here, but what I'd like to see is where the buildings are. The storage buildings in the back. The edges of those to the proximity of Romney Road. I don't think we're really too concerned about the front of the property. I think it's more the rear of the property and what's gonna happen to it. Cause a good chunk of the front of the property is already cleared. But I'd like to see where the buildings are. I'd like to know where the rear entrance to the property off of Romney Road is gonna go. And I think I'd like to see where they're proposing, where the entrance off of Romney Road on the side is gonna be also.
So did you mean there, for clarification, you want to see the buildings? That's what we're talking about, seeing the buildings, and we're talking about the two entrances. There's one off Route 18 and there's one off Romney Road. You said both off Romney Road. There's only one entrance on Romney Road. It's up in the front.
Oh, there's not one off the rear of Romney Road? I thought there was. Okay.
So do you
That's
want
an emergency, that's an emergency entrance. That just provided, it's not one that's gonna be open or anything. It's just providing for an emergency entrance.
It was meant for fire personnel if needed.
where that's off of, there's another one off?
That's the rear of Romney Road, which is diagonal.
Northwest corner.
It's just a gravel, it's just a gravel path, 12-foot wide.
But there's, I didn't think there was an access to Romney Road, looking at that. I thought it came off the back of the buildings.
No, that's why I saw that, because there's a gate back there too.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that.
If you look at
It's just an emergency gate. It's not one that's controlled by anyone else other than the fire department.
And it's got such a slope, it's not really practical for traffic normally anyway.
Yeah, so if that could be staked out. So just for clarification, if we're doing a site walk, you want to see all the buildings staked out and the two entrances off Romney Road, correct?
Yes. That's what
All the buildings or just the back corners of the life storage?
While you're out there set up, is it much more work to stake out all four corners of those four buildings in the back?
Well,
I mean, that's a lot of.
Is it more work you're asking me? Yeah, it's more work. I don't see what necessarily, if you think there's gonna be a benefit to seeing the front corners of those as opposed to the back corners, because I thought the concerns were is how they relate to Romney Road. Am I reading that wrong, Steve?
Well, I'm concerned how it relates to Romney Road. Now, they're all in a row, Larry. So I think if you stake out the first large building,
The whole building, yeah, the whole building.
and maybe you stake out, let's call it, what you call it building E, right? You got B, C, D, and E. So if you stake out building B and stake out building E, I can get the gist on where the other buildings are and how long it is and how far it goes in. So it's 8 stakes I'm asking for.
And then the two entrances off Romney Road.
Correct.
Can I just offer a suggestion? So if we did the back corners of each of those buildings, and we did the front corners of the first building and the last building.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
So you're gonna do the back corners of the two middle buildings and all four of the the bookends, correct?
Yeah, I mean, if we get the other ones in there, we will, but it all depends on
Yeah.
what it takes.
Okay.
And then the entrance coming in from Romney is what you're saying.
Well, yeah, and approximately where the emergency entrance is
Okay.
for fire trucks.
No, I just, as you make your revisions and stuff, I think it is very important that 6.3, 6.4, and 10.6 be, considered. I know they're new. I don't know. They're less than a year old. I don't know if engineers are looking at those sections or not, but that they are requirements and priority, requirements. So. I think it's important that we have proper screening there. So.
And could I ask a question of the board?
Sure.
Ray had some comments about trees and so forth. And I guess my question is that when the 200,000 square foot warehouse was built, how was that issue handled there?
Personally, not to go against Mr. Ajemian, I'd rather have, instead of, and this is just me, I don't want to represent the rest of the board. Just with the comments this evening, I'd rather see proper screening on this site. That site, not all of it was cleared. There's still a big chunk of it on Flag Street that they kept open. They paid $75,000 for tree removal there. So, personally, I'd rather see the berm and the trees remain in the perimeter here as opposed to a financial contribution, but I think that's why it's important to have a site walk, so. And Mr. O'Brien, I could be wrong with that number, but I
would say it probably was 50,000, but there was a financial contribution in lieu of approval and other site plan conditions.
And the other thing too, Mr. Silva, we didn't have, that was approved prior to the new site standards that were adopted on 9/23. 9/22. When were those new? When were the new standards adopted? It was less than a year ago, September 23, correct?
So it was
September 22.
The recodification stuff. Well, that's for any site plan review. We're looking at site plan review and performance standards for larger projects. So what we do, and as part of my memos, is that we kind of have to lay out, and I'm sure we ask every applicant to look at the site plan review standards and the performance standards for larger projects and mention how each of their projects meet the criteria of that. Oh, you're muted, Pat.
I said, I think that the zoning codification was before Mr. Rulli came, and that was over a year ago. So, all right, I'll open it back up for public comment. Mr. Ajemian, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just to clarify, the building on 18 was gift was 25,000 to the town. And I just want to add, I'm not sure we're in disagreement with the chair. I think that screening is important, and I think that the screening should be designed so that people are protected from it. And if it means making a smaller building, then so be it. But I think that's separate from the idea of a gift to the town for trees that are going to be cut. So I think both should be applied to this project. In other words, proper screening. If that means that the buildings may have to be smaller, so be it. And I think that the fact that there are a large number of trees can be clear cut, that there should be a gift to the town. And that is in the zoning, by the way, in the new zoning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ajemian. Mr. Gabriel, do you have another comment, sir? Or is that an old hand?
No, that's not an old hand, it's a new hand. Just a quick question for my own purposes, not aware of any type of restrictions or any type of zone. I don't know if it falls under zoning. I see a big propane tank. That's going to, I'm assuming, for is that going to be feeding the fuel for the buildings for heat, or is that a tank for filling propane tanks commercially?
Mr. Silva?
That's fulfilling tanks commercially.
Okay, so let me ask you this. I believe Prisco's does the same service. Is there some sort of code that requires it to being so many feet away from each other?
I would say if there is a code, this is probably 20 times whatever that distance would be or more.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think they're even remotely close to one another.
Well, each site is adjacent to each other. So, I mean, it's not like, you know, there's one at Home Depot and then there's one over at Dewhurst. You know, I'm just saying that we have two propane tanks for commercial use adjacent to each other. Just think, you know, thinking out of the box here, that I didn't know if that is, if having two explosive things that close to each other matter.
We could certainly look at what that separation distance is.
Okay.
Steve Solari is here if he wants to answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Gabriel. All right, any other public comment or board comment at this point? Shane, I can only see half. I don't know why I can't see everybody. Did Mr. D'Amelia come back on?
I don't think they've figured out how to.
Okay. All right, so why don't we decide if the board wants to do a site walk? We gave Mr. Silva direction as to what we want to see. We can figure out a date that's convenient for all members of the board. It'll have to be posted. And we can ask the applicant if they would allow us to bring abutting residents or residents on to the property or not. And we can post a time once we do a poll with the board or whatever. So I don't think we need a motion on that, Mr. O'Brien. We just.
No, you guys are asking me to schedule a site walk, and that site walk will be posted. I'm just gonna reach out to you guys to see what times and dates work best for you guys, and we'll reach out to the.
Well, why don't we do this too? Why don't we have Mr. Silva contact us when it's ready or when he thinks it'll be ready, so we don't waste everybody's time and the stakes are in, and then we'll go out.
I'll have it ready in a day or two, whatever you need.
Okay, so maybe someday next week, or Mr. O'Brien. If we,
Yeah,
if the board's
I
available.
just want to make sure board availability. That's really where it comes down to.
Okay. All right. If there's nothing else, is anybody on the board willing to make a motion to continue?
One question, Mr. Chair.
Sure, Mr. Geller.
Mr. O'Brien, how advanced do you have to advertise that we're gonna do a walk?
That would be within 48 hours. So I would probably want to get this ironed out more than 72 hours in advance of that timing. So I would prefer, you know, if we're looking to do something next week, we iron it out this week. And if we look to do something the week after, we iron it out next week.
Okay.
Can we not make if I tell you that we'll have it staked out in a week, can you not set up a time now?
It's board availability. I have two board members that aren't here, but yeah.
Okay, so let's do this, Mr. O'Brien. Today is what, the
20th. Yep.
So Mr. Silva will have it staked out by the 27th. So we'll schedule a date between the 27th and the 17th, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that'll be posted. Okay.
That is correct.
All right, so do we have a motion to continue this hearing, if it's okay with the applicant, until April 17th?
So moved.
Second.
Just for discussion, Mr. Silva, the 17th works for you folks?
It will.
Okay. So we have a motion by, I missed that. I heard Ms. Rojas seconded it.
Mr. Geller and then
Yep.
Mr. Haley. Second.
Okay. So
Oh, that wasn't you, Astrid, I'm sorry.
We were competing.
All right, so we have
You beat me.
motion and a second. Is there any discussion on continuing this to the 17th? I'll take the roll. Ms. Rojas,
Yes.
Mr. Geller,
Yes.
Mr. Haley,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Okay. Thank you. All right, so continuing on the agenda. Item 4, this is an A&R plan for 173 Center Street, map 20, lots 81 and lots 82. Is this Mr. Silver as well,
It is.
or is it Ms. Baptiste?
Well, it's the either one of us. I'll have to pull it up on the screen. Hopefully better than last time.
Mr. O'Brien, I looked at this, but did you send it? I didn't see a memo on this. Did you send, was this in any memo?
No, I didn't provide a memo for this one. I was committing myself to a nice verbal memo. But
Alright.
yeah, I could preface, I guess I can preface the presentation with my my memo. I was reached out by Silva Engineering regarding this A&R plan. They provided me a preliminary design of this plan, in which I provided comments in terms of recommendations. My recommendations were to label which parcels were to be transferred between ownerships, and they properly did so. So I am satisfied with satisfied with the changes that they implemented as part of this A&R plan. But I think Rebecca can better explain the purpose of this.
And we have
Oh,
a proper application fees, and it's been signed by both landowners. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I thought Larry was going to talk about this one. No?
I can if you want. I mean, but basically mutual agreement between the two property owners was to sort of fix the line that was between them. And the line was adjusted in a way that it did not increase any nonconformities on either lot. And that it was just the way it was done. We did provide for legal descriptions basically of the two parcels that were being swapped. And that is what's shown in the two details that are on the left side of the plan. I think it's, you know, it's sort of just makes it better for both parties. And I met with them both in my office. They signed the applications together. I think it's a minor issue, but but obviously this is what it takes to make it happen.
And just Mr. Silva, the nonconformities are either the same or better. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is Mr. Solari still with us or no?
He is.
Yes, he is.
Mr. Solari, I would imagine this is a good thing, right? And you have no issues with it because there's nonconformities that they're improved?
Oh, I think he just came back into the meeting.
That's all
Sorry
right.
about that. I lost you for a sec. What was the question?
So even though they don't meet setbacks, the setbacks are better. So this is a good thing, correct?
Right, because it's a legal non-conforming structure, and as long as you stay in the distance of non-conforming, it's a special permit. As long as you're just keeping the same distance away. If in the old way, if the lot lines stayed where they were, then he'd be required to get a variance.
So you're talking about if he decides to add on, but just for the Form A purpose.
Yeah, for the form. Yeah,
For the-
and
for
I'm
the
just putting that out there because the reason for this is to put an addition on the house.
But for right now, this is a good thing because the nonconformities are either better or the same, correct?
Exactly, because you're not changing frontages, there's not a deduction in area, so you meet all the requirements.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Solari or for Mr. O'Brien? Mr. O'Brien, you're comfortable with it, correct?
Yeah, they did what I told them to do, and I'm happy.
Any board questions or comments? If there are none, do we have a motion to endorse?
So moved.
Mr. Geller, do we have a
Yeah.
second?
Second that.
By Ms. Rojas. Any discussion on the motion to endorse? Ms. Rojas,
Yes.
Mr. Geller,
Yes.
Mr. Haley,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so item 5, this is just Mr. Rulli and Mr. O'Brien. If they want to add anything to it, we're having the form-based code and the MBTA zoning come back to us on April 3rd, 2024. Is there anything that you'd like to add about that?
No, just the information is available on our website, and I'll be emailing it to the board if anyone would like to check out the red line version. I know that this board sent some recommendations to town council. There was some additional material added as part of the form-based code, and town council was more comfortable sending it back to the joint committee and checking in on those changes, as well as having both the CED committee and the planning board provide additional comments and recommendations before it goes back to town council.
Okay, thank you, Mr. O'Brien. So we have planning board minutes, January 3rd, 2024.
Yeah, I don't think I provided those as part of the packet. So
put those on for April 3rd.
At the April 3rd meeting, I'll just because we currently only have one thing on there, I'll package a bunch of minutes on for that meeting.
All right, and I think we took care of item 3 with item 1, because the only thing on for the 3rd, unless we get a Form A or something, is going to be the zoning, correct?
That is correct, yes.
I'll just give a quick, because I am a liaison to the CPC. We had an emergency meeting last night that was Monday night, that was kind of disappointing. The town manager had submitted an application for a bunch of accessory improvements to the senior center. We went through the whole process. We had to continue it out because the application was not able to be properly read. Some of the words were cut off. So we continued it to an emergency meeting. We thought we were going to approve the project to do all the patio, raised beds, plantings. I know the tree committee had contributed as well. And I don't know how it slipped by everybody in town, but the state had determined the project is ineligible. So we asked, we have a pretty strong letter from, I don't know his last name, Stewart at CPC, telling us what can and cannot be funded by CPC. So before we completely nix the project at the senior center, we sent it to Attorney Rollins just to review it and to make sure there's nothing that we can do. It's pretty disappointing that everybody spent so much time on it and we had so many meetings on it, and then in the end it was ineligible. So I don't know where that'll go. But that's what's happened recently at CPC. Good use of a lot of time. So anybody else with any committee reports? Okay. Planners report, either Mr. Rulli or Mr. O'Brien.
No, I don't think we have anything pressing at this time. I'm sure we'll have some additional things. Like I said, we're working on the form-based code, vision to reality. Recently completed a Green Communities grant, as well as always looking for new grant opportunities in the future. So we're just working away. Oh, you're muted, Pat.
Item 6, is there a motion to adjourn?
I can set a motion to adjourn.
By Ms. Rojas. Do we have a second?
No, the meeting I had to fly out, we went later.
All right, all right, all right.
There's no second.
Second,
Mr. Geller, any discussion? I'll take the roll. Ms. Ross,
Yes.
Mr. Haley. Mr. Haley, Mr. Geller,
yes.
Mr. Haley. Mr. Haley's abstaining.
Sorry, yes, yes.
Yes.
You
And
want
I'm
us to stay in.
And I'm a yes. All right, thank you. Good night, everyone.
Night, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everyone.